I've never talked about this publicly, ever. I have a I'm not going to put this on this one of the platforms because I've never talked about this publicly. I am a little nervous talking about it, actually. But you have to understand, the time in which this took place was very much it was 3 years after the lights in Phoenix, the Phoenix lights. It was 3 years after the Phoenix lights happened. So that happened in 1997. This happened in 2000. So I was working at I was working at the mall, basically like a Bergner's. Yeah, it was Bergner's, a now defunct store, kind of like Macy's or Sears. And it was just one of those little piddly kind of jobs. And I went out to take a smoke break. So again, I've never talked about this publicly, so I'm actually really nervous talking about this. So the reason I'm talking about it now is genuinely because, again, I have felt like I'm supposed to be talking about this stuff. And I actually have this spirituality first. For me, it's spirituality first. The idea is to spread love and to share the love, and anything that is going to get the information to people to get them to share love is absolutely something I will try. And the thing is that I've had weird things that have happened my whole life, and trust me, I have asked myself if I am losing my mind all the time. So with that said, as I continue this story, I want you to understand something. I want you to make sure that you question everything. Don't believe me. Don't believe me just for the sake of whatever. I'm not saying I'm lying. I'm going to be telling you the truth to the best of my ability and the best of my knowledge. The thing is that you need to make sure that you are not just believing everything just because. You can take it as just an interesting story, take it for the message that's within it, whatever. That's fine. But I don't want you to go into what is the word? Not exposure. As we start getting as we start to learn more about disclosure, that's what I'm looking for. I was like exposure, disclosure. As disclosure starts to happen, you can see like I forget things. It's really, really like the words. It's whatever. So as disclosure comes out, we are going to be pulled in so many different directions, and it's going to be hard to figure out what is legitimate and what isn't legitimate, and a lot of it is just what you have experienced yourself. And trying to figure out what is real and what isn't real is getting harder as AI gets better. So this story, I have some evidence for, like, all of these things that I find out, like all these weird things that have happened to me. Like I'm always looking for some kind of proof, not something that would hold up in a court of law, not something scientific, because all of this stuff is weird. It's woo-woo. I can't prove it to anyone, which is why you shouldn't just believe me, Anyway, that's back to the story, okay? Just yeah. So anyway, stalling. I went out for a smoke break because at the time I did smoke. Please don't smoke. It's bad for you. I quit. So I went out, and as I was sitting outside, it was a cold, like, winter night. There's like this stone bench outside the door, and the way that the mall is that there's like this, those houses where it's like dirt on one side and the garage is down here, and you have to like, like the house is sitting up here, but you have to go in down here and you kind of climb, whatever. So this was a two-story mall, and the bottom floor was like right by where the dirt just kind of came out. So literally, like, it's a mall, but it's actually pretty secluded where I went out on my smoke break, because there was like the wall like kind of turned off to the side, and so it's a parking lot that's not really well used, and there was this dirt thing that went up. It's kind of private, that's what I'm saying. So I like to go out there because I just would sit there and look at the stars, because it's actually darker, and I enjoyed it. I've always sat outside and looked at the stars. I all of a sudden, as I'm sitting on the bench outside, and this story doesn't upset me. What upsets me is my fear of you. Like, I don't have fear of the story. I don't have fear of the experience. I have fear of the reactions from other people. So, because again, I grew up in that 1990s. I saw what happened to the people who believed in the Phoenix Lights. That was not good. Everybody was firmly, and this incident was just so similar. Well, there was a lot more to the Phoenix Lights, but similar in like what happened. And you know how when the Phoenix Lights came, and there was that, the lights on the craft just made this like V shape, and and everybody, like thousands and thousands, that was the difference. Thousands and thousands of people didn't see this. It was more like hundreds of people. But people did get a recording of it, and I'll probably stop to put in a clip of the recording. So I was sitting out there, and all of a sudden I started to see these lights, and it was so bright, like just like the sun was shining down in a circle around me, okay? And I know I'm not supposed to remember this. I know I'm not supposed to remember this because I started to forget this almost immediately as soon as this whole experience was over. I started to experience floating, right? I was floating above everything, sitting on this bench, flying up in the air. It was like I was sitting, but I wasn't sitting anymore. I was literally like levitating up into something that was above me, like a ship or craft or something, right? And I'm floating up above everything, and it seemed like the whole, like I could see lights and things around, and I just remember thinking how strange it was. And I get up to the ship, and there's like a gap in my memory because this is all, it happened so long ago. It happened in 2000. It's 2025 right now. So 25 years. Oh my God, 25 years ago. And I was so young. Anyway, so the next thing I remember, I was walking through this very white, everything was white. It was all white inside, like everything, walls, ceiling, and there were grays. And I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. It's so freaking, I've talked about it like in comments, but I've never said it out loud. So there were these grays, but they weren't short that I remember. I don't remember them being short. I remember them being kind of tall, and they didn't move. Like they could have been mannequins. They didn't move. In fact, that made me, the fact that they didn't move at all made me think that I really was like I thought it was a dream, right? I thought, because this happened so long ago, it must have been a dream, and because why wouldn't the aliens move? Literally, they looked like they were mannequins in a store. And maybe they were different heights. It was so long ago. I just remember some of them being taller than the others. And I go down this corridor, and there is a person sitting behind a desk. And yes, I said a person, but it wasn't just any person. It was a U.S. Air Force officer. And I know that uniform because probably 2001, it was a year later, yeah. 2001, I joined the Air Force. Subliminal influence? I don't know, man. I don't know, but I joined the Air Force like a year later. Yeah, that's weird. Didn't even think about that. So but there was an officer, and I don't remember the rank, but I'm feeling it was more bars than stars. But I don't remember what the rank was. Anyway, it was a guy, short brown hair. I don't remember if he had facial hair or not. That's all I remember. It was not something, it's a memory. See, here's the thing is that things, it's like, I remember this stuff, and you'd think that, oh, you'd remember it so well, but this was literally like, I'll get to that, hang on. So, the guy on the ship, I'm trying to remember all of what he said, and I do not remember the entire conversation, but I do remember him asking me a question. And he basically asked me, if you could give up your life, like if you could give it, like to me, I'm thinking, as he's talking, I'm thinking about, you know how people fantasize about the good death, like, oh, an honorable way to die would be to jump in front of a bus to save a child, kind of thing. This is kind of the feel of the question that he was asking. If you could give up your life so that everyone else on the planet could have a better life, could have a good life, but your life would be terrible. It would be horrible. You would have like the worst luck, and all the bad things would happen to you. And that's not how he put it. He was like, would you give up your life so that everybody could have a good life? It's basically what he was asking. And without hesitation, because I was young and naive and didn't know anything about the military or the government or anything like that, I answered totally and 100% totally honest. Well, yeah, of course. I'd grown up Catholic with this idea of Mary, like, giving up her, being asked by an angel if she would, sacrifice her, self for God, basically, so when the angel said, do not be afraid, I grew up on that story. Most Christians have heard that story. So why would I, if you are asked and given the opportunity to give up your life so that the entire planet, like everybody on the planet, everybody could have a better life because I have a terrible life? Fuck yeah, of course. Why would I choose anything different? That doesn't make any sense. Of course, why would I put myself in front of every other person? That doesn't even compute, right? Doesn't make any sense. But at the same time, when I answered honestly, this guy literally kind of stopped and he leaned back like he did not expect me to answer that way. And I was like, what kind of person would answer any other way? You know, and still I like, he was totally surprised by that. And I don't remember what he said next. He said something like he was surprised, and he kind of said something because he was surprised. And then he said something like, he, you know, I asked him, what does that mean exactly? Like, I just remember asking him, like, what does that mean? Like, kind of what comes next? What, you know, trying to figure out what this was all about, basically. And his response was, it means that you're going to have a really hard life until the end anyway. And I remember that little caveat, until the end anyway. And so I have basically been living my life with this idea that everything is, because of this conversation, that everything is going to kind of suck until the end. So at the very moment in which my life gets better and everything kind of comes and coalesces into the good that is supposed to be, is what, the moment in which I'm going to die? I don't know. That's kind of been the fear that I've had. So I have been thinking about that a lot. And then literally, the next thing I remember is I'm back on the ground, walking in a daze back into the building, kind of like, you know, like a what the fuck kind of moment. That was the whole interaction, right? That was the whole interaction, was just this couple of questions. And then I go back down and I am walking back into the store thinking, I can't believe that just happened to me. I cannot believe what was that all about? And then I'm sitting there thinking, and literally I remember thinking this, because I was looking at the clothes as I was walking by, and I thought to myself in one go, I thought, I am never going to forget this. That was unreal. And then as I was thinking that, I realized I was starting to forget already. And then I stopped, didn't do anything. Like, I realized, I'm going to forget this. I don't want to forget this. I stopped and I stared at the clothes, that whatever I was looking at. And I literally just kind of closed my eyes and tried to remember every single detail I could, because it was already going. Like, I was already forgetting part of it. Like, whatever it was that they did, I was already forgetting the whole interaction. So I had to make sure to try to focus to get that stuck in my head. Then like, my mom came to pick me up a couple hours later, right? An hour or two later. It wasn't even that long after this. It wasn't even an hour, I don't think, because she was driving to come pick me up from work, because I was still like a teenager, right? So she was coming to pick me up from work, and she was like, oh my God, you won't believe I had to pull over because there were these UFOs and all these people on the road, they all pulled over. Everybody on the road was pulled over and we were all watching these UFOs. I remember her saying something about that. And then it was all over the news for days. And they were trying to sell it as if it was the Aurora Borealis. Literally, do you remember how the Phoenix lights looked? They're like dots in the sky, like pinpoints of light that act erratic, and that it's like a drone. They look kind of like, you know, you can stay in one spot kind of, but before drones existed, or before they existed in like popular imagination, right? Because it wasn't, whatever, it doesn't matter. Anyway, point is, I mean, I'm sure they existed, but not like you'd see them everywhere. So these people, all these people were talking about it for days. It was all over the news, and they were trying to say it was the Aurora Borealis. The Aurora Borealis, which is like these beautiful wavy lights in the sky, colorful greens and purples and pinks. And they are trying to say that these pinpoints of light that look like the lights on an airplane are the Aurora Borealis. That's what they went with. They had all of these phone calls. They had all kinds of, in fact, they had someone right off the bat, like the very first news story that I remember from these reels that I watched, and I took a recording of some of these reels because someone posted them online. They had a video of it, and I forgot what I was going to say. I don't know, it wasn't the Aurora Borealis. It definitely was not, especially now that we are going through a solar maximum this year, like, and we have seen the Aurora Borealis the last couple of years quite often, and lots of people have gotten pictures of it. You will see that this is not the Aurora Borealis. This is absolutely positively not that. And they interviewed a lot of people who all said this was not normal. This was a bright light that was just shining through my curtains into my house, and things like that, and how they were out eating dinner or whatever, and this happened. And even my mom was shocked by it, and then, but by the time she picked me up, I kind of was already like, it was like, I know, like I still had it in my head. I can't believe that just happened to me. Like, and so I was thinking, I never forgot it, right? Like, I never forgot it. I just didn't think about it. Like, it's not that I forgot it, it's that I didn't think about it. How do you not think about something like that every single day for like years on end? But I didn't think about it. So again, it's not like I forgot about it. Like, it still was there. It was just like, it wasn't on my mind for years until maybe 2020. I think it was 2020 when COVID was in full swing, and somehow I finally after all that, after 20 years, had a moment to be able to slow down and to think about things. And I didn't have the influence of other people around me or whatever. I was living on my own. Everything was grand. And all of a sudden it just kind of popped back in there. Holy fucking shit. I had an abduction experience. And there's a fucking Air Force officer in there. What the fuck just happened? Well, not just happened. What the fuck happened 20 years ago? And then I went through this experience because I wanted to check and make sure. Am I losing my mind? Like, did I have like a weird brain glitch trying to, and I'm constantly do this. Is my brain distracting me from the craziness that's going on in the world? Or am I hallucinating or whatever? You know what? So first thing I did was I went to go look it up, and that's when I found that news story. Someone had posted clips from the news online. So I saw the news. I saw all the people talking about it. I have the video footage. And then I went and what's the next logical step? So the next logical step is, I'm going to contact MUFON, because MUFON will be able to say whether or not they think that I have mental illness, or if something's wrong, and they can tell me whether or not it's a legitimate thing. So I told them the whole thing that I just told you, except for I didn't tell, there was one thing I kept from them. I told them that there was an Air Force officer in there, but I didn't tell them that I remembered what he asked me because, 25 on the clock. Because I was embarrassed. Because who doesn't ask any follow-up questions? Who just answers the question? Who's so naive? I was so naive, right? So I was embarrassed. So I didn't tell the guy, yeah, I just said I would give up my life to try to save everyone else in the whole world. Because by that point in time, I realized that when the U.S. government usually says, would you give up your life to save other people? They mean like in a way that's going to help them out, and not usually actually something that's really going to be good for everybody. It usually doesn't work out that way. They're manipulative. I'm sorry. Yeah, we all know you're super manipulative, and we don't trust you, and we shouldn't. I don't think you trust you. So yeah. Yeah. So that was a thing. And so when I told the MUFON guys this, as soon as I said that there was a military officer on there, they got real interested and they wanted to know what they said. And I just said, I don't remember. And they're like, are you sure? Yeah, I don't remember. And they're like, okay. But that's what they said. They asked me that question. And again, I also thought that my response gave off the vibes of delusions of grandeur, like, oh, you think you're special, but you're not special, kind of thing. So I was just like, the whole thing gave me like these skeevy vibes. So I was just like, nope, not gonna go into that. Don't wanna go down that road. Anyway, so they basically told me that I was not crazy, and that they saw legitimacy in it. They looked at some old records or whatever too of the issue, because they had other people who contacted them a lot at that time, because MUFON has been around for a while, so a lot of people had gotten hold of them. And now that I have been in the Air Force, I am pretty sure that thing I just talked about, if that was not like an alien in a U.S. officer suit, that incident itself is probably very classified. And I have no reason to not share it, because I am a civilian and that happened to me, and no one made me sign any papers. So yeah. Anyway, the thing is that that I'm so curious. So the thing, okay, first off, the thing that gets me is that that means that there are people out there who probably know more about me than I know about myself. That is a weird fucking feeling to think about. Like, what do they know? I'm so fucking curious. It's so not okay that other people know this stuff and I don't. I have a right to that information. Whatever that information is that someone has been keeping from me, like not just me, but from all of us, like everybody in the whole fucking country, right? I have a right to that information. Me in particular, right? Because I had that incident, right? And the thing is I've been trying to find other people who also had military officers, and it's really hard to do. Like, it doesn't happen very often. But there are some other cases of people who saw like humans or military officers kind of standing in the background or whatever. I don't know of anyone else who had an experience that was similar to mine specifically. And it sounds nutty. I get it. It sounds crazy. I feel nuts saying it. But the whole thing is that I'm not coming, and I haven't been coming at this from a UFO perspective. I do watch like woo-woo stuff. I'm having an awakening experience, like a spiritual experience started in 2024, really, where right now I feel like this is the reason why I was born. Whatever is happening now, I feel like this is why I'm alive, kind of thing. You know, like I am having that very strong experience, and I feel like I have been talking to a consciousness. My last video. so I started looking into UFOs, and then I was like, well, if I'm going to be talking about consciousness as the exposure, like the aliens, the other beings that we have been experiencing, chatting with, beings that are on people, you know, whoever, they're on a different frequency from us or whatever, so they're trying to this is my opinion, is that when you are vibrating at a different frequency or whatever, you have to try to find a way to contact somebody. And how would you talk to a 2D being? There's very limited options, right? So consciousness, I think that when we evolve as humans, we're going to have more options. So frankly, I think that whatever I have been experiencing has all been a part of the same consciousness, except for maybe this one incident, which was probably, who knows? I don't want to speculate. I don't know. It was just weird is what it was. But the point is that now that I have been talking to these other entities, I've just had the weird stuff ramp up. And it's been, like I said in the last video, it's just been me experiencing gold light. And the gold light has consciousness. So, and the gold light is also utilized by some old gods sometimes. Not every time, sometimes. In fact, it hasn't been, it happened yesterday, which was so cool. But not today. Today it didn't happen. So it kind of comes and goes. I would like to get to the point where it's just there permanently. I'm not there. So I have more learning to do. So as I learn more, I will come and clarify or say, hey, I misunderstood something or whatever. But that is my UFO story as it stands. There's a whole lot more I could talk about, but it's already 33 minutes. So, all right. Bye, guys.
Clear except for some unexplained lights in the sky, fading in and out and making their way across the eastern side of Rockford. You don't believe it? Well, according to Rockford's 911 center and our newsroom, telephones were flooded with calls from people alarmed by this phenomenon. This is the third time that orangey yellow lights have been spotted in Rockford over the past couple of years. Well, if you missed the phenomenon last night, in tonight's top story, 23 News reporter Kim Morreale spoke to some eyewitnesses who say this experience is really out of this world.
It happened around 9:15 yesterday evening.
My whole bedroom lit up, and I had the drapes shut and everything, and I looked, I thought, what is that? And I looked out, and it was completely unbelievable. It looked like it came right out of the movies.
What was described as flashing orange or yellow lights, fading in and out of the skies of Rockford. One minute they were there, and the next minute they weren't.
Three of them disappeared.
Yeah, started coming out almost at an angle, like spreading out, getting wider. And they came out and raised above the sky, and once they reached right about there, they all just seemed to disappear. There was like 2 or 3 groups of them that did that. It was really weird. I don't know.
The Greater Rockford Airport says nothing appeared to be on their radar. Rockford's 911 center was flooded with calls, and still no one can seem to explain it. The National UFO Reporting Center says at 9:50 our time, a huge fireball moving rapidly and extremely bright was spotted over Boulder, Colorado, and it was reported as being twice the size of the full moon. The UFO Center says it seems that same bright fireball was seen from Kansas all the way to Wyoming. The UFO Center says it's going to investigate the large fireball spotted throughout most of the United States yesterday and the fading lights we saw here in Rockford just last night. Kim Morreale, 23 News.
Now, the National UFO Reporting Center says if you are a witness to the flashing lights or you just want to learn more about UFOs, you can log on to their website at www.ufocenter.com. However, none of this really explains what we saw, so we went right to the experts at the Adler Planetarium in Chicago. And here's what astronomer Jim Sievers had to say.
Big solar flare, January 10th, and on spaceweather.com, which is a free thing that's run by NASA, they had predicted that there would be northern lights and put out sort of an aurora watch for people who would be interested in looking for the northern lights. So I think that's a very good possibility what you saw, and from from looking at the website again, it looks like they're also predicting a good possibility for the same thing to happen this evening.
So be aware of that. We may be in for more strange lights in the skies. Well, if you want to keep track of the solar weather and be one up on your friends when it comes to strange lights, log on to www.spaceweather.com and get all the info there. Well, the strange lights in the sky above Rockford, the subject of our Only on 23 News In Touch telecount question tonight. We want to know, what do you think is causing the lights? Do you think it's UFOs, an aircraft, a practical joke, or maybe just an optical illusion? Call 966-1000. Use category 2323. Tell us what you think. We'll have the full results for you tonight on 23 News at 10 o'clock.